And then if you want, we'll take some questions at the end. Please, Pete.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. As you said, it has been a historic year at the Department of War. Recruiting and retention over this year are at the most historic levels our country has ever seen. When I had a chance to be on an aircraft carrier destroyer over Thanksgiving, the spirit in our ranks since the election under President Trump is unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it as a soldier myself in uniform, and I know a lot of you feel the same way. We've ripped out the DEI and the political correctness. It's all merit-based at the department. We're getting back to basics: accountability, training, readiness, lethality, and that's reviving that spirit. And Mr. President, we're rebuilding the military, historic investments. I just took briefings on the Golden Dome and F-47, next generation capabilities that are going to make sure that for generations to come, America has the most powerful, most capable, most lethal military in the world, which you have rebuilt once and we're rebuilding again. And then we're reestablishing deterrence and credibility. If you look at what happened, we deal with every day the outcome of what happened in Afghanistan, the debacle under Joe Biden. We just dealt with it in the streets of Washington, D.C. with those 2 National Guardsmen. And then what happened on October 7th with Hamas, what happened in Ukraine, a war that never would have started under President Trump. We're having to rebuild that. So whether it's freedom of navigation and taking the fight to the Houthis, whether it's Midnight Hammer, those beautiful B-2s going 37 hours back and forth, undetected, delivering with precision, and Iran not getting nuclear capabilities, Europe and NATO stepping up to 5%, locking down our southwest border. It's been an honor to work with Christy and Tom and everyone else down there to lock it to 0, operational control of our border. And then it's getting after and going after narco-terrorists and designated terrorist organizations in our own hemisphere. As I've said, and I'll say again, we've only just begun striking narco boats and putting narco terrorists at the bottom of the ocean because they've been poisoning the American people. And Joe Biden tried to approach it with kid gloves and allowed them to come across the border. Cartels take over community, 20 million people, hundreds of thousands of Americans poisoned. And President Trump said, no, we're taking the gloves off. We're taking the fight to these designated terror organizations, and it's exactly what we're doing. So we're stopping the drugs, we're striking the boats, we're defeating narco-terrorists, and we're standing...
And you may say one thing, that drugs coming in through the sea by sea are down 91%. And I don't know who the 9% is.
I'm not sure either, sir,
but down 91% by sea.
We've had a bit of a pause because it's hard to find boats to strike right now, which is the entire point, right? Deterrence has to matter, not arrest and hand over and then do it again, the rinse and repeat approach of previous administrations. This is meant to get after that approach. And I will just end by saying, as President Trump always has our back, we always have the back of our commanders who are making decisions in difficult situations, and we do in this case and all these strikes. They're making judgment calls and ensuring that they defend the American people. They've done the right things. We'll keep doing that, and we have their backs, Mr. President.
Good job. Thank you very much. Howard?
So we set out to stop the ripoff of the United States of America. This is about global change of trade. We've been ripped off since 1945 when we set this policy. So we set out, and together with my partners, Jameson Greer and Scott Bessett, we set out to change that. So we started, the first one was the UK deal, right? We asymmetric, they pay us 10%, and we get charged nothing. That allows us to export, and that began the process. Then we did the biggest, the European Union, 450 million people, $20 trillion economy. They completely opened their borders to us, and we charge them 15%. That makes America $100 billion a year and turns it back to where our economy is the best. And so it proved that President Trump's trade agenda was the right trade agenda. Then we go to Japan and Korea. They offer us $750 billion in cash to build in America at the president's direction. And we're going to start, as an example, nuclear. Right? We need to have a nuclear arsenal in America of power, the generation of power. So we're going to build hundreds of billions of dollars, financed by the Japanese and the Koreans, meaning they give us the money, we build it here, and we split the cash flow 50-50. We're going to build ships, $150 billion worth of ships in America. That changes the way things work. Right? After those trade deals, then you go to how are we going to reshore? Right? Let's start talking about the auto industry. right? We've been competed against by Koreans, the Japanese, the Europeans. We're kicking our tail. President Trump changed it. 25% tariffs, bring it all home. This year, General Motors stock up 40%, Ford up 34%, and on the same day that we announced we had set all the tariffs, Sean Fain, the head of the United Auto Workers, called and said, I can't believe I'm calling a Republican Secretary of Commerce to tell the president that this is the greatest administration for auto workers in America. Stocks up and auto workers up. That proves that President Trump understands how to take care of the whole ecosystem, both the companies and, more importantly, the people who work there. Semiconductors, right? We didn't build any. The Biden CHIPS Act was a $60 billion giveaway, right? We've now turned that. $300 billion is committed to America. That's going to go up to $750 billion in the next 60 days, right? And then you go to pharmaceuticals, right? $250 billion being invested in America, and then working together with Bobby Kennedy, right? Pounding away on that MFN, working together as a joint team. They're coming to over $250 billion and cutting prices in half. We did the golden share of U.S. Steel to make sure the Mon Valley is protected. Intel gave us 10% of the company, make tens of billions of dollars, right? And the last thing I will say is a year ago today, I was working on transition with President Trump, right? To build the greatest cabinet ever for the greatest president ever. And I, as I sit here today, I can't be more proud of how you did it, sir. You've created the greatest cabinet. It is a joy to be at this table.
You know, one thing we will mention, so they came to see me from Intel, and they had a problem. I said, look, we'll fix your problem, but I think the United States is entitled to 10% of your company. And the chairman looked at me and he goes, you have a deal. Tell them, how much money have we made since I made that deal?
It's only $40 billion.
40 billion. We made $40 billion. That was, what, 3 months ago? Does anybody write about it? Nobody writes about it. That's okay. Mr. Secretary, how we doing with transportation?
Well, Mr. President, so just quickly on aviation, many of you have heard that we have an infrastructure made of copper. We have to transition to fiber. The last administration said it was going to take more than 10 years to complete the transition from copper to fiber. They had no plan to actually do it. We have already completed a third of this transition from copper to fiber. Now it's going to take longer for us to go from analog to digital. By the way, the rest of the world transitioned 20 years ago from analog to digital. We are just going to do that at the FAA right now, but we're buying new radios. We're going to buy new radar. By the way, those radar are going to be made in America, Mr. President. This phase of the operation will be completed by the time you leave office. It's 3 years. I do need another $20 billion, Congress, to start the second phase, which is really important, and we'll try to get that done also in that 3-year time period, but we need the money, critically important. With regard to commercial driver's license, I think we've covered a lot the crashes that have taken place around the country. And what we found is there have been states that have issued commercial driver's license to foreigners, and they've gone through sham schools, and they're not safe on American roadways. And so, in partnership with Secretary Noem, we have driven those numbers down. We got California, Gavin Newsom, to revoke 17,000 unlawfully issued licenses. We've closed down half of the fake schools that give out these fake licenses, all critically important. Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota gave 33% of these licenses unlawfully. People that should never have a driver's license driving a big rig on American roads, endangering the American people, shameful. We've cleaned up Union Station here in DC per your directive. We're going to rebuild Penn Station in New York. We're going to break ground at the end of 2027, get that project operational. And, you know, Mr. President, a lot of us, I fly commercially, I fly back by the bathrooms. I don't know why that happens. They put me in the back. You know, we've asked Americans to bring their better selves, to bring civility back to travel, to say, listen, let's say please and thank you. And if you have someone's pregnant on your flight and you're as strong as Pete is, well, pick up the bag and help her put it in the overhead bin. Let's be nice to each other. is what we've asked. Maybe not wear pajamas or slippers on the airplane. And I think it's been received fairly well, and I think we can all have a better travel experience when we do that. And just the last point I'll make is there was a big football game where the Merchant Marine Academy that falls under DOT actually beat the Coast Guard with Christy Nome. We beat them by 1 point, and so we're very proud of that. And so well done, Kings Pointers.
So a little bit in a nutshell, we're rebuilding the air traffic control under boot edge. It's supposed to be boot edge. Who's another grossly incompetent person. He'd get in his bicycle right to work, and he was just terrible. What they do is they take the fiber optics and they take fiber trying to hook it into copper, and fiber and copper don't mix. You can't do it. But people knew that for the last 30 years since they started doing the fiber. And they spent billions of dollars, and it didn't work. And you saw that by the helicopter crash. You saw that by Into the Plane. You saw that by a lot of things. So we're doing a brand new air traffic control system, and it's going to be the best, and it's going to be from top to bottom. And we have the 3 top companies in the world bidding on it. And it's going to be one bid, and we're going to have one company responsible, and it'll be the best system. And it's going to make this. Look, our skies are safe. Otherwise, we wouldn't let people fly. But we're going to have the safest skies. We're going to have the best system anywhere in the world. We're also going to rebuild Dulles Airport because it's not a good airport. It should be a great airport, and it's not a good airport at all. It's a terrible airport. It was incorrectly designed with a good building. Actually, it's got a beautiful terminal. Saarinen was the architect, one of the greatest architects in the world at the time. A great architect. And so they have a great building and a bad airport. But we're going to turn that around, and we're going to make Dulles Airport, serving Washington and Virginia, Maryland, etc. We're going to make that into something really spectacular. We have an amazing plan for it. And other things, but you're doing a really good job. I appreciate it.
The people movers of Dulles, we had a crash recently. So we're going to announce that later today, a request for bids on this. But again, it's not a great airport, which we can make great in this administration, Mr. President.
We have a design that's amazing for Dulles. It's going to take Dulles and make it a really bad. It was a badly designed airport. We're going to make it into as good as there is in the country. It'll be exciting. Okay, please.
All right. Well, Mr. President, it's good to be here at this meeting because in 1 year you can look around the table and see the change. And I think one of the biggest changes is how this cabinet works together. And I want to start there. There's often been said, I found out some things this year that I didn't know, that the Department of what was Defense, now Department of War, and the Veterans Department had never really communicated. Now, we're fraternal twins, in a way. Pete and I are. He lifts better, I'm better looking. But in looking at this, I mean, he brings them in. He keeps them for a number of years, up to 20 or longer. And then they come into what the country is committed to our veterans. And if you don't have both ends working correctly, then recruitment lags, morale lags, and we've been able to work and fix a great deal of that. I didn't need to change our name, but I did do one thing. I put the veteran back first at the VA. And we did that in 1 year. How did we do that? We started taking things that have been neglected for a long time and put them back. We had a backlog in which we've dropped over 160,000. We're not talking year-to-year change at the VA. We're talking 5-6 year. We have to go back 5 to 6 year prior COVID numbers to see the change of backlogs that are now reduced. We do it in 6 months instead of the long time it took. In fact, it grew under the Biden administration. It shrank over 160,000 under us. CHAMP VA, which is a program we have, has basically been back to day to day. It was at a terrible state, which delays and claims and everything's going on. We've got that back. We're doing things like taking a new look. I have one question that I ask when I go to my hospitals, which by the way, over 170 hospitals, 1,200 clinics, and I ask the people one thing, Mr. President. I said, what are you doing right now that if you were just honest and I wasn't standing here, you say, this is stupid. It's been amazing what we've gotten, and the feedback that we've had. We've been able to change how we do credentialing, how we do privileging, how we do hiring. We're all working through that, and it has all made a difference for our veterans as we go forward. CNP exams for veterans out there listening. If this is the one where disability claims, where they say, well, let me send you to a doctor to make sure. Most of the time we have that already in the record. We're working now to where those could actually be changed, where we just look at the record. and not have to send them to the doctor. That's almost a $3 billion savings that we can let, and also not taking what the veterans get. We're also getting ready to announce here pretty soon a reorganization that's going to bring our hospital system organizationally in line with the 21st century. We are the largest healthcare organization. It's about time we acted like it, Mr. President. You gave that leadership, and we're going to do it. And also one thing, community care contracts getting ready to go out. It's one of the largest contracts in the federal government, but it does exactly what you and I have talked about before, making sure that our veterans can get care in the system or in the community, wherever they want it. We're getting ready for that. Now I have one thing for all the press who really enjoyed the first of the year, saying, oh, you know, they're going to cut all these jobs, 80,000 this, 80,000 at the VA. Mr. President, every success that I just gave you came after the fact, or pretty much after the fact, that we had 30,000 take early retirement. Early retirement, no risk, although you reported it as loss and risk, you can't help yourself. 30,000 took the retirement. Every bit of the success that I just told you about came with a reduced workforce. There was a motivated workforce that said, how can we take care of veterans? That's what this cabinet does. That's what we're doing for you.
And you've got the highest approval rating we've ever had at the VA, so that tells you something. You're doing a great job. Thank you very much. Jameson, please.
Well, there's been some activity on trade this year. You know, for about 75 years, we had a system, global trading system, that was premised on the United States having totally open borders, right? Not just on immigration, but on goods and services, and everyone else generally kept higher tariffs, higher non-tariff barriers, etc. Obviously, the outcome was we had a huge trade deficit. You took it head on. You gave all of us who work on the file a lot of leverage. So we spent the past 10 months or whatever we've been doing now, just going around the world and flipping the script. So now we're in a situation where we've protected our industries, we have the tariffs, and the other countries have decided to take their tariffs down and non-tariff barriers. And we've done it in a very constructive way. We've achieved agreements on reciprocal trade, which are a new kind of trade agreement that's really focused on making sure we have balanced trade, we have reciprocal trade, that we're treating each other fairly. And it's been embraced by the international community. And it's going to be exciting to see what it's like 5 years, 10 years from now, because you've changed it. And that's how it's going to be now. And I think you should be commended for it, and we look forward to seeing what comes in the next few years.
Thank you very much. You're doing great. He's doing a great job. Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last time I was here, I said that the amount of dereg that we had for regulatory was 30-1. Since then, it's up to 48-1. Your goal had been 10-1, which was in excess of 6-1 in the first term. It's actually much higher than that, but I made my team redo the threshold a little bit because it sounded so unbelievable. But the amount of work that's being done with this entire team is astronomical. And another detail in that is that when we propose a rule, some of the biggest ones that you care the most about don't go into that count until they are finalized. So next year we should be even more eye-popping. One of those to talk about